Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, WWOR-TV presents New York Mets baseball as tonight the Mets take on the Philadelphia Phillies. Mets Baseball 87 is brought to you this evening by Bud Light, the light beer with a first name and taste. Everything else is just a light. By Nissan, who invite you to test drive a hot new Nissan car or truck and see why Nissan makes you feel like driving. By Manufacturers Hanover, the financial source worldwide. By Burger King, where you get juicy flame-broiled burgers, the best food for fast times. And by the 9X Yellow Pages. It's the one you've always had. It's the only one you need. Pitching for the Mets tonight, right-hander Dave Cone, who's 5-5 with an ERA of 3.76. And on the mound for the Phillies, it's left-hander Don Carman, 12-11 with an ERA of 4.52.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner along with Tim McCarver and Steve Zabriskie, all set for the second game of this three-game series. Mookie alternating with Lenny Dykstra in center field. They both have been hitting well down the stretch. Mookie in his last 35 games hitting .354. And the first pitch is swung on and missed. Wilson against Philadelphia hitting .261 with 12 hits. He's had 2 home runs and 5 runs batted in. And the fastball back in the count. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And that's what the Mets will primarily see from Carman. A lot of hard stuff. Hard curve, hard slider, and a good fastball.
Carman mainly a relief pitcher for the Phillies, although he started in the minor leagues, and this pitch is swung on and missed. As a matter of fact, he made 119 relief appearances for the Phillies before he got his first game start. And it's 0-0, bottom half of the third. Philadelphia playing against the St. Louis Cardinals in St. Louis. I should say Montreal playing against the St. Louis Cardinals in St. Louis. And that's the first game of a doubleheader. And the fastball, once again, 2 balls, 2 strikes. On deck batter for the Mets, Tim Teufel. Mets on the road with a record of 41-35. And Mookie has struck out all fastballs throwing to him. Not in the for 4 last night, and he gets a fastball. Carman just throwing fastballs so far in this game. Teufel has a 5-game hitting streak, hitting .450 over the 5 games. 1 for 4 in last night's game, a single off the fence in left field. And another fastball, strike 2.
Going right to Teufel's strength. Timmy, an inside hitter. 2 fastballs on the inside part.
And there's the first curve thrown by Carman. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Carman with a lifetime record of 31 wins, 21 losses. Last year he was 10-5 for the Phillies. And the fastball, it just does miss. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Interesting how some teams work different hitters as you look at David Cone, the starter tonight.
And the fastball again. That puts a count at 3 balls and 2 strikes with Keith Hernandez on deck. Mets lead the National League in hitting at .269. They have 188 home runs this year. They're 5th in the National League in that department. And a swing and a miss, and Carman blows out Tim Teufel. Teufel joins Mookie Wilson on the bench. He also struck out.
Same pitch. It's good old country hardball right there. Carman from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. One of 2 Phillies from Oklahoma City. John Russell, the other.
That brings up Keith Hernandez. Keith hitting .292 for the year with 17 home runs, a career high there, 88 runs batted in. 0 for 4 in last night's game. Keith has been suffering from a heavy cold, although last night he appeared to be in much better shape, and I talked to him tonight and he said he's got it licked. And Carman to Keith Hernandez with a fastball. Mets have set club records in batting average, runs scored, runs batted in, 2 base hits, extra base hits. Also a club record in hits and total bases. This ball popped up into shallow left field. Jelt's the shortstop over there, and he makes the catch, so the Mets go in order. And second baseman in the National League to have more home runs Then Juan Samuel, Davy Johnson, the manager of the Mets, who had 42 home runs as a second baseman. The year he actually hit 43, one as a pinch hitter. Rogers Hornsby holds a record for home runs by a second baseman with Davy Johnson. Davy hitting 42 home runs in 1973 for the Atlanta Braves. Samuel fouling off the first pitch at strike one. And the breaking ball for a ball, one strike. Samuel in double figures in 2 base hits with 35, 3 base hits with 15, home runs with 28, and stolen bases with 35. And a swing and a miss. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Samuel, for 4 years, has led double figures in those departments. No other player has done that in his first 4 years in the Major
Well, I
Leagues.
bet no other guy who's ever led off has led the league in extra base hits either. I don't know about that, but it's a pretty good bet.
And this pitch fouled back. Possibly Bobby Bonds and possibly Joe Gordon. Gordon was a fine leadoff hitter and had quite a bit of power. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count to Samuel. 1 for 5 last night. He's hitting .267 against the Mets this year with 16 hits, 1 home run, 6 runs batted in. And this ball topped out foul. Carter tries to get it in fair territory and is unable to do so.
Gary does the right thing. You don't want a ball like that to bounce because surely it's going to be foul, so you just kind of try to smother it toward the fair part of the diamond.
Samuel was 7 leadoff home runs. That's a career high for a Philadelphia Philly. And the fastball fouled back out of play. Samuel made the last out of last night's ball game, flying out to right field. The Mets winning by a score of 1-0. And the new manager, well, not new really, Lee Elia. Elia looks like he has a microphone hooked up to his uniform. And again, a fastball fouled away. Lee Elia took over for John Felsky during the season, has signed for next year. 1-2 pitch out of the strike zone. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Cohen last year pitched for Kansas City, had no record. He also was at Omaha where he won 8 and lost 4. Mets play Samuel straight away. And the curveball and hit hard to center field. So the first hit of the game goes to Juan Samuel.
David hangs the curveball, and Samuel takes care of it. And an obvious threat to run. 35 stolen bases. He's been caught 15 times. I don't think there's anybody in the National League that can beat you in more ways than Juan Samuel can.
He has that good power and good speed. Of course, Strawberry would be that same type of player with the good speed and good power. Outstanding power, as a matter of fact. Samuel a good size lead, and he draws the throw. David Cohn working for the Mets. There's that good lead. He doesn't go as Milt Thompson squares and takes a curveball for a strike. Thompson hitting .305. He has 7 home runs, 41 runs batted in. In his last 77 games, he's hit .353. He went down to the minors and then was recalled. And this ball hit hard to left field. So 2 line drives, 2 men on, and a shaky start for David Cohn.
Well, another curveball and a good piece of hitting by Thompson. That's in a good spot.
Thompson 2 for 2 last night, and now a single his first time up here tonight, and that brings up Chris James. James hitting .294 with 17 home runs, 52 runs batted in. So the Phillies threatening here in the bottom half of the first. The Mets went out in order in their half. And James hitting .200 against the Mets with 7 hits and 35 times up. He has had 2 home runs and 3 runs batted in against the Mets this year. And he squares to bunt, bunts it out in front of home plate. Carter fields it and picks up the out at first as the sacrifice moves Samwell to third and Thompson on down to second.
Well, you don't often see the sacrifice in the first inning, especially when only one runner is bunted over. But it's a little bit different when you get good speed to second and third, because now, even if Schmidt doesn't get a base hit, he can drive Samwell home with a sacrifice fly, an infield out, or something of that nature.
Schmidt 0 for 3 in last night's ball game, hitting .295 for the year with 34 home runs, 109 RBIs. Lifetime against the Mets, he's had a .254 batting average with 45 home runs. And he has 529 career home runs. Mets shift against Mike Schmidt, putting the second baseman on the shortstop side. And the first pitch a curve for ball one. Schmidt has had 2 home runs against the Mets this year and 7 runs batted in, hitting .220 with 13 base hits. Great speed on the bases for the Phillies, and the curveball again, this one in the strike zone, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. On deck batter for Philadelphia, Vaughn Hayes, a left-hand batter. David Cohn working in a jam here in the first. And that pitch a ball to count 2 balls and 1 strike. The Mets have won 12 of 15 against the Phillies this year, and they won 5 of 7 at Vet Stadium.
Montreal at St. Louis, first game of a doubleheader. No score, top of the 4th inning.
And the curveball swung on and fouled away, so the count goes to 2 balls and 2 strikes.
That game, with a correction. Well, not a correction, it's just an update, a further update. No score, top of the 5th inning.
2-2 to Mike Schmidt. Schmidt looked like he was trying to hit that breaking ball toward right field. Tuffle now has shifted over on the second base side. The Mets second baseman moving about 25 feet over to his left.
He'll hit the ball in the air to the right side. He has power the other way, but rarely will he ground the ball through. He's like Carter in that respect.
And the 2-2 pitch, a fastball fouled back. Count remaining at 2 balls and 2 strikes to Mike Schmidt.
Big question here in Philadelphia is whether Mike Schmidt will return for the 1988 season. Schmidt has made it public that he does not want to take a cut from his $2 million+ salary. And the Phillies have refused to negotiate, as is the policy of most clubs. They've refused to negotiate during the season.
Schmidt, an 8-time batting home run champion. And that pitch a ball, so they count at 3-2. Cohen thought he had that one on the inside part of the plate.
Well, we'll see. No, that's inside. Not close.
Little flat slider that did not break over the plate, so the count 3-2. Runners at second and third. 1 man out. And a good curveball hit down to short. Santana will throw to first base as a run scores. Samwell coming across from third, and the Phillies lead 1-0 as Schmidt gets a run batted in.
That's his 110th of the season, and a pretty good curveball by David Cohn. Schmidt with amazing plate coverage. Santana forced to go to first base. That's why you play your infield back. You might say, well, if you play it in, then you have a shot at Samwell. That's right. However, with Schmidt hitting, no way in the first inning of a scoreless game can you play your infield in.
Hitting with that infield in makes a racehorse out of a mule. Now Vaughn Hayes, the batter. Vaughn Hayes hitting .279 for the year. 21 home runs. And a good stop on the curveball in the dirt as Thompson holds at second base.
Too many curveballs so far. David Cone is a fastball pitcher that relies on the fastball to set up the curve. If he starts out calling or shaking Gary off or having Gary call for too many curveballs, they're approaching it the wrong way.
Other than Chris James, Samuel, Thompson, and Schmidt all hit curveballs. James sacrificing off a fastball, and there's another curve. And the count now 2-0.
Well, Detroit over the Baltimore Orioles 1-0 game in the top of the second inning.
Toronto's magic number is 4 against the Detroit Tigers, with both teams losing last night. Another curveball.
So that cuts Detroit's magic number down to 4. Any combination of Toronto wins or Detroit losses that add up to 4, and it's over in the American League East, and those two teams play each other in Detroit this weekend.
3 games in Detroit. Another curveball, and it's in there. So Von Hayes seeing a steady diet of breaking balls. Von Hayes against right-hand pitching hitting .299, against left-hand pitching .234. 2-2 the count. And the fastball hit out to shallow right, going back as Tuffle, a tough chance, and he makes a fine play. And that retires the side. Tim Tuffle taking a base hit away from Von Hayes to retire the side. The Phillies get 1 run on 2 hits. They leave 1. And the score at the end of 1, Philadelphia 1, the New York Mets nothing. For the Mets here in the top of the second. Philadelphia leading 1-0, and the fastball to Strawberry, ball 1. Darrell 0 for 3 in last night's ball game, hitting .285 for the year with a career high 38 home runs and a career high 102 RBIs. And that pitch is strike, 1 ball, 1 strike. Strawberry in his last 23 games batting .344, scoring 20 runs with 7 home runs and 24 runs batted in, and the fastball fouled off 1 and 2. Philadelphia leading 1-0, and the Mets batting in the top of the second inning. That ball way out of the strike zone. The count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Strawberry against Philadelphia pitching this year with 6 home runs, 19 runs batted in, hitting .302 as David Cone keeps that jacket on his throwing arm. This ball hit to the first baseman, Von Hayes, and he picks up the out as he goes to the bag, takes it unassisted.
Milwaukee at Toronto, no score, bottom of the first inning. We might add that the Western Division of both leagues last night, they were clinched. Minnesota in the American League West and San Francisco in the National League West. So only the East is open. Sounds like Marco Polo.
And that pitch to Kevin McReynolds, an off-speed pitch for ball 1. McReynolds hitting .285 for the year. Make that .279 for the year. Career high 29 home runs and a career high 92 RBIs. You're watching Mets Baseball 87 on WWOR-TV, Secaucus, New Jersey. And a fastball in there, a called strike. 2 balls, 1 strike. Reynolds has 4 home runs in his last 7 games and 9 runs batted in. And the fastball hit in the air to left center field. Chris James making the call and making the catch 2 men away. So Don Carman has retired his first 5 batters, and that'll bring up Gary Carter. Carter hitting .234 for the year with 19 home runs, 81 runs batted in. Lifetime, Carter has done well against Carman, batting .421 with 2 home runs, and he goes after a fastball, strike 1. Carter hitting .259 against the Phillies with 15 hits, 4 of them home runs, and he has driven in 11. 0 for 4 in last night's ball game. And the fastball right back. 2 strikes the count. And again the fastball, 1-2. Carman, back on May 16th against the San Diego Padres, pitched a 3-hit shutout. That's his career low in hits. And he has a lifetime record at 31-21. And the fastball fouled away. Count will stay at 1 ball and 2 strikes. On deck batter for the Mets, Howard Johnson. And again a foul ball out of play. Have a beautiful evening for baseball here in Philadelphia and a good crowd. Phillies have drawn over 2 million.
It's not going to be pretty for long, however. It is supposed to rain later on this evening and continue throughout tomorrow.
And the fastball for ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And again a foul ball out of play. The Mets, with their 90 wins in their last 4 years, have never won less than 90. Again the 2-2 pitch and a strikeout. So Don Carman has retired his first 6 batters in this game, striking out 3 in the score at the end of 1.5 innings. The Phillies won, the New York Mets nothing. Now here's a word from the 9X Yellow Pages.
That was good research. I see you've been doing your homework.
I'm
nice
into that book.
I mean, you know, it's one of those deals. Bob striking out 17 Tigers, and Glenn Wilson leading it off here in the second, and the curveball is high.
In the top of the 6th inning, St. Louis nothing, Montreal nothing. First of 2 in St. Louis.
Swing and a miss by Wilson, 1-1. Glenn batting .262, a disappointing year. 14 home runs. He had over 100 RBIs a couple of years ago. Tapper toward Cone, and he throws him out. With 1 out, the batter, Darren Dalton. 1-0 Phillies, bottom of the second, and that was the score by which the Mets beat the Phillies last night. Phillies threatened all 9 innings, but could not push a run across, and tonight they pushed one across in the first inning. That might add a little grist to why Lee Elia bunted in the first inning. Ground ball inside. I was going to say inside the bag. The sign for the umpires on the lines usually is when the hands go up. Well, Jerry Crawford, the first base umpire, gave no such indication.
His hands went up, but they went up as he was facing into fair territory. And from that, I guess you have to say it was a foul ball. No chance at all for Keith to get near it, so a foul ball. As you look at Jerry Crawford, the first base umpire.
Well, you know, he pulled the ball foul. It's usually straddling the line with the arms up, and the reason they do that is because the players can't hear whether it's fair or foul, and when the arms go up, it's supposed to be a foul ball, but no such indication then. 1-1 to Dalton. Low, ball 2. Dalton, a devastating knee injury last season when Mike Heath of the Cardinals slid into him, slid into that left leg and just twisted it. He underwent surgery and rehabilitation all winter long. He opened the season on the DL and went to Maine, the AAA affiliate, of the Phillies and recalled May 2nd. Foul back. 3-2 to Darren Dalton. Fastball got him looking. First strikeout for Cone and 2 outs.
Well, this is a good fastball that catches the inside corner. Cone picks up his very first strikeout.
So Dalton down on strikes, 2 outs, and the batter Steve Jeltz. Steve batting .225, and he also was sent out, but not because of an injury. Fastball outside. He was sent out June 22nd because he was batting under 200 and recalled a month later.
Since he's been back, he's hit well, .344.
1-1 to Steve Jeltz. Steve attended the University of Kansas. That's where he learned how to switch hit. And last year he gave the Phillies hopes after Tom Foley, who's now with Montreal, was injured on a Roger McDowell fastball May 17th or March 17th of last year. Jeltz was given the job and did a good job at first. Then he rips one to right center. Strawberry to it in a hurry to hold Jeltz to a single. So that will at least clear the pitcher for the Phillies, as Don Carman will be the batter.
Third hit for Philadelphia in this game. Jeltz getting on top of that fastball. Strawberry over there to cut it off. Jeltz makes a good turn, but then holds.
Carman 5 for 58 on the year and a swing and a miss. Don was 0 for 49 in his major league career before he trickled one through here at Veterans Stadium against the San Diego Padres earlier this year. Grounder towards short. Easy play for Santana. And over to Tuffle, who went to first, and that's for the 4th out. So Don Carman grounds into a double play. About killed Keith Hernandez. Fortunate he was looking. It's 1-0 after 2. A lot of strange things happened this last week. We'll be back to the RBI shy of 100. 1-0. Phillies on top of the Mets. 0-2. Carman throwing awfully hard tonight, really challenging the Mets inside. Interesting thing about the lineup fielded by the Mets this year, 5 of the 8 regulars have at least 1 home run against Carman this year. So they battered him around pretty well. High, ball 1.
He has set the record for home runs given up by a left-hander in Philadelphia history, breaking a record once held by Steve Carlton. He's given up 33 home runs this year. Carlton had the record at 30.
He did that in 1978. Breaking ball lifted to left field and playable for Chris James. 7 in a row retired by Don Carman. 1 out here in the 3rd.
And after 6 innings, it's Montreal 0, St. Louis 0 in the first game of their doubleheader. Detroit 1, Baltimore 0, top of the 3rd. Milwaukee 0, Toronto 0, top of the 2nd.
And a fastball, a strike for Santana. And we mentioned that 5 regulars have home runs off Carman. Well, Santana has 2 of his 5. Breaking ball outside, 1-1. Wilson is homered, Strawberry is homered, McReynolds is homered, Johnson and Santana. But so far, the Mets do not even have a base runner. 7 in a row retired by Don Carman. Outside, 2 balls and a strike to Rafi.
Back on August 20th in 1986, Carman pitched a no-hit, no-run game for 8 innings against San Francisco. Brenly stopped the no-hitter when he led off with a 2-base hit in the 9th. So he just missed a no-hitter in his major league career.
The 3-1 pitch, swing and a miss. So it's 3-2 to Santana. Still 3-2. Magic number is 5 for the Cardinals. Line drive, and Samuel, who appeared to catch the ball in the air, was given the safe sign by second base umpire Terry Tata. But he just went ahead and threw it to first anyway. It appeared that he caught that ball in the air. 2 outs.
First hard-hit ball off Carman in this game. Santana hits it very hard to the second baseman. And Samuel has to go to first to complete the out, as he did not catch it on the fly.
Here's David Cohn. Swing and a miss. David 2 for 29 on the year. He does have a double to his credit. Strike 2. Foul back. Cohn alive. Check swing towards Schmidt at third. Bare hands it, and he throws out Cohn. So that's 9 in a row. Bottom of the third. The Phillies on top 1-0, and word from St. Louis.
Cardinals have just scored on a balk call, as Martinez has balked in the first run of the ball game. So the Cardinals leading by a score of 1-0 with a runner at second and no one out. Bottom of the 6th inning.
Fastball for a strike, and obviously one of the 2 runners on when the balk was called, Vince Coleman. 22% of the balks called in the National League last year were with Coleman on base. 1-1 to Juan Samuel. Swing and a miss. 1-2 to Juan. He singled and scored the only run of the game in the first.
Now we understand that the balk call was reversed, and they're putting Coleman back to third, and the runner on second, Ozzie Smith, back to first.
Wow.
Reversed the ruling on the balk call.
Fastball line to right, and there's Strawberry. Samuel hit it awfully hard, but Darrell hardly had to move. 1 out.
While we got a second, we'd like to pass on a get well to Sam Bondelich of Toms River, New Jersey. Our best wishes for a quick recovery.
Milt Thompson singled Samuel the second in the first inning, and then Chris James sacrificed, and Schmidt drove Samuel home with an infield out. That's where we are, 1-0. Curveball low, gets by Carter, 1-1. Thompson 7th in the National League in hitting, and just think back on June 3rd, he was batting .246. Did not have a good year last year. Good defensive player, but has really blossomed into a great offensive year this year. I don't know if you can blossom into a year. You blossom as a player, I guess. Blossom because of a year. 3-1 to Thompson.
And now the Cardinals do get that run on a sacrifice fly by Tommy Herr as Coleman scores from third. So the Cardinals are now leading 1-0. Bottom of the 6th inning.
Inside and low, so Thompson draws a base on balls. That's the first issued by David Cone. And Thompson, a threat to steal. He leads the Phillies in stolen bases with 42, and the batter, Chris James.
Back in the first inning with runners at first and second and no one out, James sacrificed rather early in the game to be sacrificing in that spot. It did set up a run to score, but that's all. As Schmidt drove in the run with the infield back on a ground ball to Santana, Samuel at third scored.
James batting .294 with good power, 17 homers, and there goes Thompson. The throw is high, and Thompson's in there.
Well, Thompson, a good jump, about 4 steps to get off to a good running start, and he comes up with a stolen base, and that is his 43rd in 53 attempts. Phillies are 11th in stolen bases in the National League, but not because of lack of stolen bases by Milt Thompson.
So Thompson at second, 1 out, and it's 1 ball, no strikes to Chris James. Curveball is high, 2-0, and I think it's safe to say that the curveball has gotten Cone into trouble so far tonight. The 2-1 curveball set up the walk to Thompson, and 2 base hits, 1 by Samuel and 1 by Thompson on curveballs in the first inning. Another curveball, this one grounded to short, and Santana throws him out. So Cone and Carter, C and C, going with the other C, the curveball. Here's Mike Schmidt.
Schmidt hit a 3-2 ball, 3-2 curveball for an out to get a run batted in his first time up.
So Tuffle now moves to the left side of second base. Actually, he's about right behind second. There's Timmy. Thompson at second, 2 outs, 1-0 Philadelphia. Swings at a high fastball. Schmidt with only 76 strikeouts this year. That's the fewest in his major league career.
And he swings and misses the fastball right there. Schmidt trying to go to right field. Tim pointed out that Schmidt rarely hits a ball on the ground on the second base side. He usually hits fly balls to right. He has the power to hit the ball out in right center. Of course, he's had the power to hit the ball out anywhere. 529 career home runs.
Line drive, base hit, left field. McReynolds will have to hurry. Schmidt to second. They might have him, and they do. Easy. So the second RBI in the 111th of the season for Schmidt makes it 2-0 Phillies after 3, and we're back after this from Manufacturers Hanover. They're cheering you here as the Cardinals over the Expos in the background. I guess that those are Phillies fans, but I'll tell you, there's many Met fans here tonight as there are Phillies fans. Top of the 4th inning, 2-0 Philadelphia, and here's Steve Zabriskie. How you doing, pal?
All right, pal, thank you very much. And the top of the order in the 4th for New York, and Mookie Wilson leading it off, who struck out swinging in the first because Don Carman has been perfect through the first 3, and he has struck out 3 as well. Outside to Mookie Wilson, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike. Mookie complaining to home plate umpire Bob Davidson about the initial pitch, which was called a strike. Breaking ball, strike 2. 1-2. So in the 7th inning, the Cardinals are leading 1-0 over Montreal in game 1 of their doubleheader, and here the Mets are trailing 2-0 in the top of the 4th. Breaking ball grounded up the middle. Jeltz behind the bag, not in time.
Jeltz did all he could do, and Vaughn Hayes tried to cheat at first base, but it's an infield base hit leading off the fourth.
I'll tell you, try this athletically sometime. The weekend football games, try going to your left and then turning and throwing back to your right. That is a very, very difficult athletic maneuver, done as well as he could possibly do. As far as Steve Jeltz was concerned, but Mookie, no way you're going to get him, right or left side. Good play by Jeltz, and Mookie was clearly safe.
So the first hit of the ball game and the first base runner for New York. The Phillies with 4 hits. Wilson at first with nobody out for Tim Tuffle, who also struck out in the first. Fouled back, strike 1.
Players all in the lineup tonight, and Tim Tuffle can flat turn that inside fastball around.
Carman stepping off to get Wilson to go back to first. Mookie with 20 stolen bases. Swing and a miss, and it looked like Carman took something off of that pitch. 0-2.
Good curveball there.
His curveball really is not his out pitch. I said the 7th inning. It's actually still the 6th inning in St. Louis. Cardinals batting in the bottom half of the 6th, leading 1-0. Tuffle fouls it off the end.
The home plate a little quicker.
Boy, that pitch looked pretty good, but Bob Davidson did not call it a strike, so it's
Pictures, just numbers. I mean, looks count, but they don't count in this particular instance. With that, almost prevents a big kick.
Fought off the hands. Here comes Glenn Wilson hard. He makes the catch, and Wilson, who is halfway, goes back to first base. 1 away. But I have done that.
I understand.
I feel like such an idiot. Wilson running, and the ball skied to center field. Milt Thompson drifting back. 2 away.
Try to get Mookie to think that it was a ground ball and a play on him at second base, but Mookie didn't bite.
Mookie drawing a throw against Philadelphia this year. And with 2 out, Carman trying to keep Wilson close.
Mookie more apt to run with Hernandez batting, less apt with Strawberry batting. Darrell with 1 swing could tie it up.
Mookie not going, and the ball inside to Strawberry. A fastball for a strike, and the count 1-1.
Darrell doesn't agree with Bob Davidson. He thought it was outside, but it looked like it had the front corner.
Breaking ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Carman pitching to Darren Daulton, and we mentioned earlier the knee injury that Darren Daulton had. And look, he can't even get on the ball of his foot, of his left leg. He's got a brace under that shin guard, left leg.
Down low. Barely. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, that is one position where if you have a damaging knee injury, see, he can't get up on his toes on his left foot. Almost has to keep that foot flat.
Well, that has got to be tough.
Oh, boy.
Darrell slices it foul and out of play down the left field.
Hit a lot or not, just a squatting position, not your normal position.
Way outside, and a good play by Dalton, who had to go over that bad knee. It's unnatural to begin with, and you add an injury into it, and it's just unbelievable that he can do it. Wilson running, and Strawberry fouling off the pitch out of play behind the New York dugout. The 2 out, and Wilson will be running again on the pitch. And now a little play on as Hayes tries to sneak in behind Wilson. High fastball strikes out Strawberry. And Carman, who gives up his first hit in infield.
Still looking at this particular style of using relievers this week. Because Davey Johnson convinced, and I think convinced properly, that you just use the whole staff. Fernandez's first relief appearance of the season. He did record 1 save last year, the last game of the season, when he worked 4 innings. And that, to my knowledge, the only other time in the regular season that he was in relief. But who can forget Game 7 of the World Series when he pitched so effectively to stop the Red Sox from further scoring? And I think he entered that game in the 4th inning.
And what a lift he gave the Mets.
It really did.
Seemed to turn the attitude of the ball club around. So Davey may be trying to get a similar response, bringing Sid in here. And this was sort of the plan that Davey and Mel Stottlemyre had before the game, and that was that if Dave Cone was not as effective as they would have liked, Sid would be the next guy in there, and he's in there to face the left-handed hitting Vaughn Hayes, who ended the first by popping out to Tim Tuffle, who made a fine play in short right field. This time he drives one to center field, but Mookie Wilson's right there, and there's 1 out. Glenn Wilson grounded back to the pitcher David Cone in the 2nd inning. And he lines one into right field for a base hit. Two pitches. And each hitter first ball hitting.
I'll tell you, Steve, this is an interesting concept because everybody, baseball, you talk about starting pitchers and relieving pitchers. Chuck Tanner, the first one to put forth the notion that he would like to carry 11 pitchers and have 9 pitchers work 3 innings apiece on a 3-day rotation.
There's a drive into the gap in left center field. It'll go all the way to the wall. McReynolds barehands and flips it in. Wilson's coming to the plate. The throw way off line. Fernandez backing up to keep the base runner Dalton at second from going to third, and the Phillies lead 3-0.
Only the 13th RBI of the year for Darren Dalton. And he just got up there and promptly spanked a fastball to left center. He really drills this ball. Wilson really scores easily. Santana's relay throw was way off line, and a good play by Fernandez saves another run from scoring. McReynolds did all he could, barehanding it. Well, that was a great play by McReynolds, wasn't it?
And right on the money to the cutoff man. Well, the Phillies are hacking away. They now have 3 runs on 6 hits. Dalton with a double and an RBI at second for Steve Jeltz, who singled to right field in the 2nd inning. Fouled off Gary Carter for strike 1.
Anyway, Tanner suggested 9 pitchers going 3 innings apiece, 3 consecutive days, and then bringing them back and having 2 relievers, 2 short relievers. Now, the problem with that, obviously, is pitchers are paid on how many games they start. Relievers on saves.
Some get bonuses for innings pitched.
Yep.
Good curveball from Sid. Strike 2.
Really not a bad idea, not a bad curveball here from Fernandez either, because a manager sets his lineup with a lot of left-handed hitters against right-handed pitching, and then in the 4th inning here you bring in a left-hander, and of course it hasn't worked for the Mets this inning as Dalton countered that strategy with the double to left center.
Fastball for strike 3. first strikeout for Fernandez and the second out here in the 4th inning.
Mattingly has hit his 6th Grand Slam home run of the year, and he didn't have one coming into this year, and that breaks records held by Ernie Banks and Jim Gentile, 5 Grand Slammers in a season.
Don Carman with a check swing foul for strike 1. Carman grounded into an inning-ending force play in the 2nd. Compare Mattingly's individual 6 Grand Slams this season with the fact that the Mets as a team have 7 Grand Slams this year. Fastball right in there. 0-2.
You know, I think the major league record for a team is 10.
He may hit another one before the season's over, too.
Sure. Great player.
You're not kidding. High and away for ball 1. 1-2. 2 out here in the bottom of the 4th. Dalton at second. And the Phillies leading 3-0. Grounded up the middle. Tuffle over behind the bag. Throws out Carman, and the inning is over. But the Phillies stat will no longer be official.
Interesting.
It just didn't work out, apparently, from the standpoint of the fact that it was so meaningless at times and difficult to determine when it was and when it wasn't, and how do you define that. McReynolds hits the second breaking ball he sees deep to center, but Milt Thompson is right there. 1 away.
The game-winning RBI coming into existence in 1979.
And when you think about it, a guy can drive in the first run of the ball game and the club can win 15-2 or something, and he would get credit for a game-winning RBI.
He could go 1 for 6. You see Terry Leach now warming for New York. He could go 1 for 6. Somebody else could have 5 hits in the game and drive in 5.
Gary Carter hits the first pitch into right center field. Glenn Wilson over to make the catch, and there are 2 out. And been a lot of outs recorded in the air of Don Carman, which is an indication of how well he's throwing the heat up there. 4th inning. Breaking ball misses. Ball 1. Kind of unusual that in a visiting park for the Mets, when the home team did something, the crowd sort of quieted down.
Yeah.
The Philly fans are somewhat in the minority here tonight. One and 1 to Howard Johnson. A fastball fouled out of play behind the Philadelphia dugout, and the count now 1-2. On deck, Rafael Santana. A curveball fouled off. Still 1-2 between the Expos and the Cards in St. Louis tonight. Strike 3. Don Carman continues to mow down the Mets. He has struck out 5. Philadelphia leading 3-0 over New York. Once again, here's Tim to call it for you.
All right, Steve, thanks a lot. And Juan Samuel, the last time he faced Sid Fernandez, he homered. It was his 26th homer back on September 8th. And here's Samuel again. He's 1 for 2 with a run scored. "3-0 Phillies, bottom of the 5th.
And we have a report that Todd Worrell, the ace of the St. Louis bullpen, is now getting ready to enter the game, at least warming up for the Cardinals.
0-2 to Samuel.
What a breaking ball that was from Sid Fernandez. That just locked Samuel up and dropped right in there.
Swing and a miss. Got him on the high rider. 1 away.
This pitch is for all of you physicists out there who say that a fastball cannot rise when being thrown by a pitcher to the catcher. That's no optical illusion. That ball had some giddy up on the end of it there.
Milt Thompson takes a good breaking ball. Milt a single, and he walked and scored a run after stealing his 43rd base of the year back in the 3rd inning. Do you test that with laboratory rats? With the high fastball?
Why not? They use them for everything else.
Maybe Whitey Herzog.
Did you see the big stuffed white rat they hung in effigy the other night with the miniature St. Louis batting helmet on it? That was hilarious.
1-2 to Thompson. Fouled away. Thompson batting .321 against right-handed pitching, but only .217 against left-handers. Way outside. 2-2 to Thompson.
Why don't they use rats of other colors, I wonder, in laboratory testing? You know, it's like if you're born a white rat, you're destined to that lot in life.
I don't know. Fouled away. So still 2-2 to Thompson. We're in the bottom of the 5th inning. 1 out, nobody on. 3-0 Philadelphia. Got him with the fastball. 3rd strikeout for Fernandez, and with 2 outs the batter Chris James.
Sid catching the outside corner as that ball sweeps across.
James sacrificed in the 1st, grounded to short in the 3rd. He's 0 for 1. But since being recalled from Maine June 2nd, he's batted .299. Fine young player. On the corner. Changeup misses. 1-1 to James. You're watching Mets Baseball 87 on WWOR-TV, Secaucus, New Jersey. It's 3-0, bottom of the 5th inning. 2 outs. The Phillies with solo runs in the 1st, 3rd, and 4th innings. Jams him with a curveball. Tim Tuffle an easy chance, and he throws out Chris James. So a strong inning for Fernandez, but not a strong Philadelphia. The Philly fanatic entertaining between innings, and Rafael Santana leads it off here in the top of the 6th. Santana 0 for 1. He grounded to 2nd in the 3rd. Only 1 hit for the Mets. Carman retired 9 in a row to open the game. Then after an infield hit, he's retired 6 in a row.
Well, here's David Raymond, the Philly fanatic, finishing up his New York number.
And when you're fighting for a pennant, that is less funny than it is in the middle of the season.
Yes, he has 3 New York batting helmets out there. They're the giveaway kind, not the real kind, and he smashes them with the dirt tamper that the ground crew uses while wearing a tuxedo, we might add.
Fouled away. 2-2 now to Santana.
Raphael went to Davy Johnson about 300 in those 10 games since having that conversation with Davy.
Well hit to left field. Back is James, middle of the warning track. He makes the play. So Santana, who has 2 home runs against Carman this year, flirted with another one. 1 out, however, and 1 run. Strike 1. Boy, Carman doing a fine job staying ahead of the hitters. Still throwing very hard. Mel Stottlemyre and Davy Johnson look on. Breaking ball, line to left, and James is there again. So 2 balls hit very hard by the Mets may be a sign that Carman is tiring.
This now becomes the best hit ball by New York, and Bill Ullman all over it, but so is Chris James to go.
Mookie Wilson, the only hit in the ball game, and has been the only base runner for New York. An infield hit in the 4th, and Jeltz almost nailed him at first, but Mookie was clearly safe. Lined foul, 1-1 to Mook.
Another one.
No.
Nor will you, probably. Well, I guess now with the fact that people see Mookie around the country and know of Mookie, someone might coin that nickname for another chum.
Ground ball to second, high hop for Samuel. So twice has Carman retired 9 in a row. Kind of bookended the base hit by Mookie Wilson. It's
3.37 ERA in his 43rd game, and Terry, the 3rd pitcher of the night for the Mets.
And he'll be facing Mike Schmidt, who has 2 RBIs in this ball game. RBIs number 110 and 111 on the year. And the fastball is outside. 1-0 to Schmidt. A couple of years ago, there was a pitcher with the New York Mets recommended to the Phillies by Mike Schmidt. That pitcher, Terry Leach. 1-1 to Schmidt.
And here they are.
Maybe Mike knew something. Terry? Well, the Mets just simply would not be in it without Terry Leach. 11-1 on the year. Filled a big hole. Ground ball right side, right through the vacated spot of Tim Tuffle. Strawberry gets to it in a hurry. So a rare base hit to the right side for Mike Schmidt.
Here's a Nissan American League scoreboard.
Behind the Toronto Blue Jays. And again, they play each other this weekend in Detroit. Slider on the outside corner to Hayes, strike 1. Vaughn 0 for 2 on the night. He's popped to second and fly deep to center. Schmidt at first, nobody out. The Phillies on top 3-0. Phillies with 7 hits, the Mets with 1 and only 1 base runner off Don Carman. Ground ball to Hernandez, good play. Throw to second, not in time. I think Keith touched the bag with the ball in his left hand. We'll see.
Keith making the backhanded play of a ball hit pretty well. He touched the bag with his bare hand, not the ball or the glove with the ball in it. Look at this. Well, here's Schmidt going down now. Because the force is off, Santana has to make the tag, and Schmidt's foot in there ahead of the glove.
Anytime there is a force play, you can force a player on the bag with any part of the body. Tag play, you must make the tag play with the ball in hand or in the glove. Inside to Glenn Wilson, 1-0.
Keith did the appropriate thing in an effort to make the play as quickly as possible, but was still unable to get Schmidt.
One of the few times a right-handed throwing first baseman would have fielded that ball a little bit better. Leach on the one hopper elects to go to first base. Schmidt going to third. Mike had a good jump off a second, so Terry made the right choice. 2 outs and the batter Darren Dalton.
Good base running by Mike Schmidt.
Curveball is low. Infield and outfield about straight away for Darren Daulton. Darren awfully strong, one of the stronger guys pound for pound in the National League. Gus Heffling, the physical coach for the Phillies, tells me that he has rarely run into a guy as strong pound for pound as Darren Daulton. Strike one, 2-1. Phillies with single runs in the first, third, and fourth, and they lead it 3-0. Foul back, 2-2 to Daulton. The Mets came into Philadelphia last year trying to clinch it, and the Phillies won 3 in a row from them. And the Mets couldn't even clinch it in St. Louis, but they clinched it against the Cubs back at Shea Stadium. Swing and a miss. So Leach pitches out of mild trouble here in the 6th inning. However, it's Philadelphia 3 and New York nothing. They have been able to muster nothing against Don Carman. Ralph joins Steve after this from Nissan.
Beginning tomorrow at 6:00 p.m., Teletron will have a limited number of reserved seats on sale for the National League Championship Series game scheduled at Shea. And we'll tell you more about it and give you the numbers to call. It'll be only by telephone in just a couple of minutes. But as we go to the 7th with the Phillies leading 3-0, once again, here's Ralph Kiner.
All right, Steve, and Tim Tuffle takes a breaking ball for strike one. The Mets held a one base hit, an infield hit by Mookie Wilson back in the 4th inning. Their only base runner against Don Carman, and this ball hit hard but foul. And the count goes against Tuffle. It's strike two. Tuffle has struck out and flied to right. Magic number has dropped to 4 for the New York Mets, and it has dropped to 3 for the Montreal Expos. With St. Louis beating Montreal 1-0 in the first game of their doubleheader. The Mets lose here tonight. It will drop to 3 for the Mets. And the 2-strike pitch, a fastball, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Tuffle bringing a 5-game hitting streak into this game, hitting .450 over the 5 games. And the slider is hit foul back into the stands. 1-2 the count to Tim Tuffle. Tuffle followed by Hernandez and then Darryl Strawberry. Last year the Mets came from behind in so many cases. This year they've come from behind to win 44 times. And they pitch a fastball, 2 balls and 2 strikes. The most dramatic come from behind was in the playoffs against Houston when they were down 3-0 in the 6th game of the playoffs. Came back to tie it and went on to win it in extra innings. And then, of course, the most dramatic comeback in the World Series of the 6th game when they came from being 1 strike from losing the World Series to a winning game in the 6th game. Then won the 7th to win the World Series against the Boston Red Sox. Probably the most exciting game I've ever seen. And certainly the most exciting game ever in the history of the New York Mets.
And you've seen every game in the history of the New York Mets, so you ought to know.
Some of those early ones weren't too exciting. Ground ball down to third. Schmidt with that great glove comes up with it, throws to first base. And the Mets are down to their last 8 outs.
Tuffle hits it off the end of the bat. Not sharply enough even on the artificial surface to get through the hole. Mike Schmidt, even with his bad legs and advanced baseball years, still one of the very best down there.
And the out brings up Keith Hernandez. Keith has fouled out. He also has flied out to center field. Carman coming into this game with a record of 12-11, 1-1 against the Mets this year, and the fastball has popped up. Samuel, the second baseman, making the call. 2 men away.
Well, we'll give you the information about tickets for the League Championship Series. Teletron, the telephone ordering service of Ticketron, the only place you can do it, and it'll be on a first-come, first-served basis. Purchases will be charged a Teletron service fee of $3 per ticket. And in New York, the number is 212-955-9000. And we'll give you the rest of the numbers as we go along.
Darryl Strawberry, the batter. Darryl 0 for 2, and he takes a fastball for ball 1. Darryl has struck out. He also has grounded out. Mets trailing 3-0. That pitch a ball, 2 balls, no strikes.
If you live on Long Island, you can call 516-955-9000.
And a fastball. Strawberry right through it. 2 balls, 1 strike. And this one is popped up. Playable for either the left fielder or the center fielder. Thompson, the center fielder, calls and makes the catch. And the Mets go in order here in the 7th inning. And the score at the end of 6.5 innings, the Phillies 3, the New York Mets nothing. Now here's a word from Exxon.
The New York Mets for $22.50 plus $3.95 shipping and handling to House of Hibbert, Trenton, New Jersey 08651. Or to order by phone, call toll-free 1-800-THE-METS. That's 1-800-THE-METS.
It's the most glorious thing that ever happened to me.
Fantastic.
Treat you like a pro, they dress you like a pro, and they work you like a pro.
They're talking about the New York Mets Dream Week Camp, 7 days of baseball at its best. Work out under the supervision of members of the New York Mets staff, the team's training complex in St. Petersburg, Florida. Hone your skills in daily competition. Then meet and compete with your heroes of the past in the dream game against the pros. For more information on the New York Mets Dream Week Camp, call 718-706-4100.
Once again, here are the phone numbers to call for League Championship Series playoff tickets. Teletron will have them on sale beginning tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Wednesday, September 30th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. These are the numbers to call in New York, on the island, Westchester, New Jersey, and of course other areas outside of New York City. And it'll be by Teletron only on a first-come, first-served basis, and there will be a $3 charge per ticket starting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. These are the numbers to call.
And it's becoming countdown time here at Veterans Stadium as Steve Jeltz steps in. Philadelphia leading by a score of 3-0. Jeltz swings and fouls off the first pitch. Jeltz 1 for 2 in this game. Terry Leach on the mound. He came in the game in the 6th inning. The third pitcher used by Davey Johnson. David Cohn worked 3 innings, gave up 2 runs, allowed 4 hits. Sid Fernandez worked 2 innings, gave up 1 run, allowed 2 hits. And now Leach working his 2nd inning. And the slider is called a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Phillies getting a run in the first. It was driven in on a ground out by Mike Schmidt after 2 singles. They got a run in the 3rd inning after a walk on the stolen base, a single by Mike Schmidt, and they picked up a run in the 4th inning. This ball hit hard at Tuffle. It's off him. He can't handle it. Tries to make the play and throws it away. Ball goes to the dugout where Carter makes a great play, and now they'll put the tag on Jeltz to see if he made a turn towards second. Well, they're not going to do it, as the umpire said no. He went straight down the line. If you make a move towards second, you're in play at first.
We'll see it again. This ball is really a rocket, and it hits the turf so close to Tuffle that all he can do is block it with his body. Well, this was an ill-advised throw, as the runner Jeltz, who runs very well, was already by the bag. And only a fine hustling play by Carter saved Jeltz from being able to go to second base.
Automatic second base if that ball goes in the dugout. Now the batter is Carman. He squares, bunts it, and bunts it well. Fernandez has it, has only 1 play to Tuffle at first, and on the sacrifice, Jeltz goes down to second.
Carman is doing it all. He's one-hitting the Mets, And he is sacrificing successfully as well with a picture-perfect bunt.
So another runner in scoring position, and the batter will be Juan Samuel. Juan is 1 for 3 tonight. Mets trailing 3-0, bottom half of the 7th inning. Mets are down to their last 6 outs. And the slider, a called strike by Bob Davidson, the home plate umpire. Samuel singled and scored the first run of the game. And the sinking fastball for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
The Mets, of course, know that St. Louis has won the first of the doubleheader in St. Louis against Montreal tonight. And they knew, before they knew that their best hope was to win every single ball game that they had remaining.
Bounce right back to Leach, who looks the runner back to second and then picks up the out at first. So now 2 men out, and the batter will be Milt Thompson. Detroit 7 and Baltimore 1. That's a final score there, so Detroit keeps alive with that win. Toronto losing to Milwaukee by a score of 4-1. Pardon me, that Detroit game is not over. It's the bottom of the 5th. Detroit 7, Baltimore 1. Montreal 4, Toronto 1, top of the 5th. Toronto starting their ball game with a magic number of 4 as the pennant races narrow down. The Giants have won it in the National League West. Minnesota has won it in the American League West. 1 ball, no strikes to Milt Thompson, who has a single in 2 appearances. He also has walked and scored. 2 balls, no strikes.
Thompson has had an outstanding year after a very slow start. He has hit .353 over his last 77 games, and tonight he stole his 43rd base of the year.
Came from Atlanta, and that pitch is outside, ball 3. (3-0) the count, as Terry Leach will now walk the left-hand batter intentionally. Milt Thompson to get to the right-hand batter, Chris James. That goes as an intentional walk, and it brings up Chris James, who is 0 for 2 with a sacrifice. Phillies leading 3-0. 2 men out, bottom half of the 7th inning. The Mets in the 8th inning will be sending up Kevin McReynolds, Gary Carter, and Howard Johnson. And a strike call. James brought a 6-game hitting streak into this game, hitting .450 over the 6 games. He has matured into a fine major league left fielder. And that pitch inside. In the 2nd game of the doubleheader in St. Louis, Brent Smith on the mound for Montreal, and his record 10-8 for the year, and Greg Matthews, a left-hander, with a record of 10-11 going for St. Louis.
And you can bet the Mets will be following that 2nd game very closely, hoping for a Montreal victory.
This drive to center field. Mookie, a late move, but then back there to make the play. And that'll do it. 1 hit, a walk, and 2 men left on base. The score at the end of 7. The Philadelphia Phillies 3, the New York Mets nothing. Now here's a word from Martini and Rossi. In performance so far here tonight, he has retired the Mets in order in every inning but one. Only one base hit by the Mets. Mookie Wilson, an infield base hit. And here in the top of the 8th, Kevin McReynolds to lead it off, and the fastball for ball 1. Kevin has flied out to left and flied out to center. Mets trailing by a score of 3-0 with 6 outs left for them. And the pitch back, a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. Davey Johnson and Bud Harrelson talking to that. Any way to get on is a good thing here for the Mets as they trail by 3 in the top of the 8th. McReynolds a good bunter, but now with the count 1 ball and 2 strikes, the bunt is off.
Jason Stark, who is a very good writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer here in town, had a great article in today's Inquirer in which he talks about the pennant races and the great last week of the season and the way things can change. Only he shifted the emphasis from the pennant races between teams to the individual races, and one of those involves Don Carman. Carman having a great night, of course, on the mound tonight. Also only needs 1 RBI to catch Bruce Benedict of the Atlanta Braves.
Pitch back is foul back.
The point that Stark is making is that Bruce Benedict has 5 RBIs on the year. Don Carman has 4. And he thinks that they ought to let Carman pinch hit after we get through with the Mets and Philadelphia series.
Pitch back to McReynolds, swung on and missed. And it is foul tipped and fouled down on the ground, so it is not a strikeout. It's a foul ball. Well, Benedict is a everyday player type player and not playing all the time.
He thinks that that would be one of the great things that could happen, would be for Carman to pass Benedict.
Ground ball hit down to Schmidt. He handles it. 1 away.
The other one he has today that I like is Marshall versus Marshall. Of course, Mike Marshall has had some criticism for being out of the lineup with various injuries, to the point of being punched in the face by Phil Garner. And if Marshall plays every game the Dodgers have remaining, he will tie former relief pitcher Mike Marshall, who had 96 appearances back in the 70s. It'll be Mike Marshall of this year's Dodgers' 96th game if he lasts the rest of the year.
Those are important. And now it's Gary Carter fouling off the fastball. It's strike 1. Carter in this game has struck out and flied out to right. And that pitch, a fastball, the count 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, you got to have a little fun with this game too.
That's right. And I really think he goes on with many other things, but I think he's found the essence of the last week of the season.
What really is important.
That's right.
The individual contest, not the Andre Dawson with the most home runs or the most RBIs. High fly ball to center field, an easy play for Thompson, and he puts it away. So now the Mets have used up 2 of their last 6 outs, and the batter will be Howard Johnson.
Don Carman retired the first 9 in a row before Mookie Wilson led off the 4th with an infield base hit. He has now retired 14 straight since Mookie Wilson's base hit.
Johnson coming up 0 for 2. He has flied out to left and struck out. Carman has struck out 5. His high in strikeouts 9. And there's a swing for strike 1. One ball, 1 strike. Mike Schmidt at third base has shortened up to guard against the possible bunt by Howard Johnson. The Mets need base runners to get the time run to the plate. They're trailing 3-0. And this one fouled back. It'll be out of play. The Phillies have won just 3 out of 15 against the Mets this year, as you look at McDowell in the bullpen, the right-hander, and Orozco, the left-hander. Mets have their pitcher coming up if the Mets can get something going here in the 8th. They're 2 batters away from the pitcher hitting. And that pitch outside, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ground ball in the hole, cut off by Schmidt. Another good play, and the rifle throw to first base, and the Mets go in order for the 7th time in this game. And the score at the end of 8. The Philadelphia Phillies make that the end of 7.5. The Phillies 3 and the New York Mets nothing. Now here's a word from Manufacturers Hanover.
Mike Schmidt leading it off, and the Phillies leading 3-0. Schmidt 2 for 3 has driven in 2 of the 3 runs. He did it with a ground out in the first, a single to left in the third, and he singled in the left center in the 6th inning, but was stranded at third base. Off speed pitch. Schmidt waited on it, but didn't wait long enough as he fouls it off hard outside of third, and the count 0-2.
Well, the rally caps for the New York Mets, and they have 3 outs to tie this ball game when they get up in the 9th. If it stays this way, it's the Phillies 3 and the Mets nothing.
Schmidt to be followed by Von Hayes and Glenn Wilson as Terry Leach, the 3rd New York pitcher of the night, works here in the bottom of the 8th. And the riser, and Schmidt is out of there. Bob Davidson says he went too far, does not ask for the appeal, and it's a 2nd strikeout for Terry Leach.
Leach goes down even lower with this delivery. He really submarines it up there, and he gets it in the strike zone, and Schmidt starts to swing, can't hold up, so he goes back as a strikeout victim. 1 away here in the bottom half of the 8th.
But the physicists tell us there's no way a ball can rise between the mound and
they
home
have
plate.
never played the game.
You're not kidding. Von Hayes 0 for 3 is popped out, flied out, and grounded out, and he takes outside, ball 1.
I love all these experts that have never played the game of baseball with all their newfound theories.
Let him come out here and put the bat on the ball.
That's like me telling a surgeon, a brain surgeon, how to operate.
That's right. And then there are guys that will tell you that the ball is not more lively, and they do it by dropping it from about 30 feet onto a thing of wood and metal, some kind of plate, on the corner, and they count 2 balls, 1 strike. Dropping a ball from about 35 feet onto a metal and wood plate tells you about as much about the way the ball reacts in a ball game as putting air spoilers on a car that's never going to go over 55 miles an hour.
Good analysis.
Has about as much relationship. The ball is different. Well, the rally caps in the stands too. 3-1 to Von Hayes with 1 out and nobody on in the bottom of the 8th inning. Grounded off his foot or ankle, and it's 3-2. Hayes earlier in the year was wearing the protective padding on his ankle, but not this time.
Toronto is making a comeback against Milwaukee. It's now 4-3 in favor of Milwaukee in the top of the 6th inning. Detroit leading Baltimore 8-1, bottom of the 6th inning.
3-2 to Von Hayes. Inside fastball ripped foul. Still 3-2. I love this stance.
There have been some pretty good hitters that have hit with a widespread stance. One of them played here, Gus Zernial.
How about Joe DiMaggio?
Joe DiMaggio had a widespread stance. Vern Stevens, all great power hitters.
Hayes just fouls it off, staying alive. It's still 3-2. That was a tough pitch.
The wide stance like that keeps you from striding or overstriding. Of course, it takes away some of your power, not a whole lot. I hit with a very wide stance. Tried to hit without a stride, a la Joe DiMaggio.
Hayes hits it deep into right center field. Mookie Wilson over, makes the catch on the warning track.
Well, this time of year and with the air cool, the ball does not carry as well as it does in the summertime, and this ball might have been out of the park. But here this time of the year, a catch by Mookie Wilson on the warning track. Good job by Mookie as he gets a good jump and then puts it away.
I'll guarantee you on an 88-degree daytime ball game, that ball's way out of here. With the heat rising from this artificial surface, that ball was tagged. But 2 out and nobody on for Glenn Wilson, who is 1 for 3 with a single to right and a run scored. Low, ball 1.
Now we'll get the meteorologist writing in.
That name again, Ralph Kiner, Shea Stadium.
Self-addressed envelope.
There you go. 1-1 to Wilson. Glenn again this year leading the National League in assists among outfielders. He has 18. Little slider way outside. 2-1.
Terry Leach is the unwritten story for the New York Mets. He saved their lives when their pitching broke down. He has a record of 11-1 for the year. A man who had been released twice by the Atlanta Braves. He was traded by the Mets and they got him back, and he has really done a job.
Ground ball in the hole. Santana over, cuts it off, makes the long throw in time, and the inning is over. So some good leather on the part of the Mets here in the 8th inning as the Phillies hit a couple hard but go in order, and we will go to the 9th with the Mets knowing St. Louis has won but trailing the Phillies 3-0 after 8 here at the Vet. Now here's a word from Budweiser.
On a Pyramid, weeknights at 7.
Rafael Santana leads off the 9th for New York as the Mets trail 3-0 in this ball game. Don Carman with a brilliant one-hitter. Santana has hit a ball deep to left field but is 0 for 2. Mazzilli on deck to pinch hit for Terry Leach. 2 balls, no strikes to Rafael Santana.
St. Louis in their second game with Montreal, 0-0 at the end of 1. They won the first game 1-0.
And that pitch looked outside but called a strike. So the count 2 balls 1 strike to Raffy. Mazzilli and then Mookie Wilson. Shot up the middle, backhanded by Samuel, and a fine play for out number 1.
This is a great play by Juan Samuel. Line shot. And he goes over to backhand that hard hit ball and makes a perfectly accurate throw to first. At one time in his career, they thought they'd have to play the outfield. He threw so badly, but look at this play here. That is a 3rd hard ball that Santana has hit in this game, and he's come up empty.
Here's Lee Mazzilli, 16 for 53 as a pinch hitter, hitting .303 overall with 3 homers and 22 RBIs.
Tied for the National League best in pinch hitting this year with Wallace Johnson of Montreal with his 16 base hits.
1 out, nobody on, 9th inning. And the ball inside.
Lee's job here is to get on base, and he's a master at getting walks.
Don Carman has not walked anyone yet tonight. 1-1 to Mazzilli. Mookie Wilson, the on-deck hitter. A breaking ball, fly deep to right field. Wilson over there and adjusts at the last minute to make the catch. So New York down to their final out with 2 out and nobody on in the 9th inning.
And we look at it on a replay, a long drive to right. Mazzilli with 2 pinch hit home runs this year, but Wilson out there to pull it in, and things are looking bleak for the Mets. The rally caps are on. They've changed position on the bench, anything to get something going, but the Mets down to their last out.
Mookie Wilson has the only hit for New York off Don Carman as he takes strike 1. It was an infield base hit up the middle in the 4th inning. Since that time, Carman has retired the last 17 men to face him. 1-1. Three to nothing. Philadelphia with 2 out in the 9th inning. Ground ball to short, and this should do it. Jeltz throws him out, and the Philadelphia Phillies, behind a one-hitter by Don Carman, have dealt the Mets a very serious blow. 3 to nothing. Carman retired the first 9 men to face him, and then the last 18 to record a one-hit shutout over New York. His second shutout and third complete game of the season. And they are lined up to congratulate the left-hander, who is now 13-11, as the New York Mets fall back to 3 games behind the St. Louis Cardinals, with the Cardinals playing the second game of their doubleheader against Montreal yet tonight.
Well, the magic number has dropped to 3. Any combination of St. Louis Cardinal wins or Met losses that total 3 will give the Cardinals the pennant. And the pressure, of course, gets even tougher because the Mets have to win tomorrow. Even if the Cardinals win and make the number 2, they still have an outside chance if they win tomorrow and go into St. Louis for their final 3.
A losing pitcher in the ball game, David Cohn, is 5-6, and Ralph and I'll be back to wrap this one up as the Phillies have won it 3 to nothing after this for Burger King. Steve Zabriskie and Ralph Kiner back with you at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, where the Phillies have won it 3 to nothing over the Mets tonight, and with St. Louis winning, the magic number dwindles to a precious few, Ralphie, and this was perhaps the biggest loss of many that the Mets will look back on if they do not win it this year.
Well, the magic number has dropped to 3, and of course the Cardinals can make that 2 if they win the second game against Montreal. And one of the things you have to look at is the fact the Mets have to win tomorrow, because if the Cardinals win tomorrow, the magic number would drop to 1. If the Mets win tomorrow, then they can go into St. Louis and have some control over their destiny, as they have 3 games left with St. Louis. So a tough loss, but you know the Mets were never in the ball game. Carman just dominated the game. 1 infield hit, and the play at first base was very, very close. It certainly appeared that he was safe, and the call by the umpire was right. But a close infield hit play there, and that's the only person the Mets got on. In the 9th inning, they hit 2 balls extremely hard, but couldn't make them work.
And the ironic thing about it was that they had other balls during the game that they hit very well that went for outs. The Phillies played outstanding defense behind Carman tonight, and quite often that happens. When you know your pitcher is going well, you sort of get psyched up behind him, and the Phillies played probably as good a game tonight overall as they played all year.
They played up to their potential. It's been a disappointing season for Philadelphia, but when you get good pitching, you usually get good fielding because that pitcher is controlling the ball game. Mets never were in it, as the Philadelphia Phillies got a run in the first inning. There was a run manufactured on a ground out by Mike Schmidt. Then they added another one off the starting pitcher, David Cohn, got one against Sid Fernandez, and then that was it because they needed no more as they won by a score of 3 to nothing.
And, of course, it's no surprise that Don Carman is the Budweiser star of the game. Carman with a one-hit shutout, second shutout, and third complete game of the year. Don Carman, the Budweiser star of the game. And Ralph and I will be back here at the Vet in Philadelphia after you hear this from Budweiser. Year. Well, with the loss tonight and with St. Louis winning the first game of their doubleheader against Montreal 1 to nothing, the Mets really, Ralph, suffering a 2-game loss. And the Mets will be rooting extremely hard now for Montreal in the second game. But the main piece of business for New York is to win here tomorrow night in the final game of the Phillies series.
Well, it's a must-win tomorrow night because they have to stay close enough to make those last 3 games with the Cardinals important to them. So tomorrow night will be a big night, and the Mets will be on the mound with their #1 pitcher, Dwight Gooden, and that should be very interesting.
And that Montreal-St. Louis second game is still no score at the end of an inning and a half. We'll be right back with a final word from the Vet, where the Phillies have beaten the Mets 3 to nothing after this for Abraham and Strauss. And for Philadelphia, 3 runs on 8 hits and no errors. The Mets with no runs, only 1 hit and no errors. The winning pitcher, Don Carman, with the complete game. His record now 13-11. David Cohn, the loser, starts for New York. His record now 5-6. And New York Mets baseball has been brought to you this evening by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
By Nissan, who invites you to test drive a hot new Nissan car or truck and see why Nissan makes you feel like driving. By Manufacturers Hanover, the financial source worldwide. By Valvoline Motor Oil, where motor oil is not just motor oil. And by the American Express card. Don't leave home without it. Guests on the program receive a Master Mechanic 7 1/4-inch circular saw, belt sander, variable speed reversing drill, and a jigsaw exclusively from True Value hardware stores, as well as an Emerson 19-inch diagonal color television with auto color control system. Be sure to be with us again on Friday night when the Mets take on the St. Louis Cardinals, beginning at 8:30 Eastern Time, right here on WWOR-TV from St. Louis, Missouri. The executive producer of Mets Baseball 87 is Rick Miner. Tonight's game produced and directed by Bill Webb. This is Steve Zabriskie for Ralph Kiner and Tim McCarver, inviting you to be with us again Friday night. Once again, our airtime, 8:30 Eastern, right here on Channel 9 as the Mets take on the Cardinals in Game 1 of that